me tell you about a friend. It's Craig LeBlanc where the good times never end. Talking Parks and Rec, it's a show you gotta know. Welcome one and all to the Daily Parks and Rec Show. It's the Daily Parks and Rec Show.
And I've been, this is my fourth decade working in the youth sports space, starting with, working for Coach Wynn, who many people should know, but if not, then figure it out. And just keeping that same heart, which is helping kids fall in love with, using their bodies as an all-terrain vehicle, playing all kinds of sports, helping them to, live better lives because of sports and athletics. So everything from PE in schools, after-school sports, to summer camps, and connecting the dots to make sure that kids all over the nation have a great opportunity.
Welcome to the Daily Parks and Rec Show. Today's episode is all about impact, how one man's vision is changing the game for youth sports across the country. We're joined by Aaron Locks, founder of the National Academy of Athletics. With decades of experience and a heart for service, Aaron is leading a movement to bring fun, structure, and purpose back to youth programs. His mission is simple but powerful: to give kids a place to play, grow, and build confidence through sports. He's helping communities create programs that are not just fun and safe, but also teach life lessons,
you want to have a major
not just skills.
Your community.
We talk about why sports matter, how they bring people together, and what cities can do to support young athletes, especially now when so many are missing out. This episode is packed with practical ideas, inspiration, and the kind of passion that gets things moving. It's one you won't want to miss. Let's jump in.
All right, we're live again with our first show of the week, or actually second show on this Monday, but our first leadership series. Craig LeBlanc, the doorman with the Daily Parks and Rec Show, 12 noon Eastern. We just crossed the 500 person on the LinkedIn page, and I can't believe how quickly we went from 300. I think it took us 3 months to get from 0 to 300, took us a week to get from 300 to 400, and took us 3 days to get from 400. Now we're at like almost 530. So fastest growing Parks and Rec anything on LinkedIn and some other profiles. So speaks to the need of what we're doing. And speaking of need, I can't think of a greater need than what Aaron has dedicated his life to founding and building. It's such a topic that's near and dear to my heart because I saw it when I was in athletics, but I'll let him introduce himself, what he's working on, and then we could probably make a 10-hour show on his one topic. So Aaron, how are you doing? How was your weekend?
My weekend was great. Took the Jeep out and got away for a little bit. Nice relaxing time, kind of get the quiet before the storm, but excited to be a part of this. I've been a fan, kind of watching as it go, and I'm one of the 100. So, I want to be a part of your what you got going on. I think it's so needed to have the conversation. There's so many rec professionals out there that are just good quality people, good human beings that are doing the right thing for the right reasons. And so you've got a great space. And I've been, this is my fourth decade working in the youth sports space, starting with, working for Coach Wynn, who many people should know, but if not, then figure it out. And just keeping that same heart, which is helping kids fall in love with, using their bodies as an all-terrain vehicle, playing all kinds of sports, and helping them to, live better lives because of sports and athletics. So everything from PE in schools, to after-school sports, to summer camps, and connecting the dots to make sure that kids all over the nation have a great opportunity.
Yeah. Well, let's go ahead and define, when we say rec sports, I want to make sure that we're framing it in everybody's mind correctly, and I'll frame it terribly and then you can correct me. But when I think of the type of thing that you're involved with, the type of thing your company is trying to facilitate is your neighborhood baseball field, where you've got 4 baseball diamonds and you've got just everybody is welcome at like 5th grade to come out and learn to play baseball. So you're learning a game. It's not about, of course, winning is part of sports, but it's not so laser focused on kids that are going to be getting college scholarship. Rather, it's more focused on the lessons that are embedded in every team sport. And we've we've kind of seen how that is kind of fading off and losing a lot of critical ground in our communities to these travel ball leagues, which are burning kids out. And so how did I do on framing it and, help clean it up?
Yeah, no, I'll you know what I'll do? I'll add some color to it. How about that?
There we go.
Great. The reality is that, back when I was a kid, you were a kid, but even into the 80s and early 90s, 9 out of kids played on a team sport. And the value, Craig, that we get out of a team sport is not just winning and losing, although those very important things, learning to compete, learning resiliency, teamwork, all those factors, empathy, all of it, as well as, oh, by the way, skills, so they have a chance to excel at whatever sport they want to play. The challenge that's happened is that when the Parks and Recs have a park down there, a lot of parents started feeling it wasn't safe. Actually, after 9/11 was kind of the first pivot, and said it's not safe to let my kid go down and play down the street anymore. So there needs to be organized opportunities. Well, that's where the recreation departments come in, and that's where it's great, because Parks and Recreations used to run that rec program. And the rec program is, it doesn't matter how good you are, it just matters you want to come out and play, and you're going to get that opportunity. Well, there's been a pivot and a shift, and I call it the lie, the great lie, which is basically that the only way your son is going to play college basketball or get paid to play is if they start playing club, travel, or elite, or special at such a young age. And unfortunately, that's a challenge. And so now, instead of more kids playing rec sports, what's happening is those kids play 1 or 2 seasons, and it's competitive and it's elite, and it's too much pressure at too young when they're not having fun, and then they opt out. So the whole goal that I have is working with recreation departments to bring recreational sports programs back to their communities, whether it's pickleball for kids, right, or baseball, or whatever it is, something that gets those kids active, because there is a major epidemic going on now in terms of childhood obesity and mental health and all the other factors that go along with it. So it's a big task, but you know what? Let's do it. Why not?
Yeah, and it's not just we would think that if you're not very athletic and but you're still young, you still have to discover your body, how it moves, how to play on a team. And so there's so many valuable lessons in sports in general. And if you're cut off from it because, let's just say, you're a shorter kid, you can't do anything to make yourself taller. And so maybe you can't play basketball because they're only wanting the winners that are going to win championships and this kind of stuff. Everything's so championship driven that we're forgetting that the most valuable lessons that these future engineers and doctors and lawyers and teachers that are never going to play college sports, you're deleting these super valuable lessons that we all need to learn, that team sports sometimes is the only place that you can facilitate this type of learning.
Right. I don't think there's any better life skill teaching tool than youth sports. And I gave a talk not too long ago, and I said that every child is a sports child if the parents allow it to be. And you have to introduce it in such a way, and some like broccoli and some like cauliflower and some like whatever, and you have to introduce those things and let them develop a palate for it, right? But I think the challenge is that what you said is so valuable in terms of the lesson. The biggest one for me is resiliency, right? In fact, I gave a talk at Santa Clara University not too long ago, and a whole bunch of parents are down there from this major soccer league. And I was asking them, how many are ready for their child to suck this season? How many excited for your kid to fail? And they looked at me like I was nuts. And I said, do you not understand that sports is really more about failure than it is success? You know, if you think about it, the best basketball players in the world miss half their shots or more. The best baseball players in the world get out 7 out of 10 times. So what does that teach us? Well, that teaches us to be the best, you have to fail. And we know failure is the best way to learn, especially if it's in a safe environment, right? That is allowing them to fail fast, fail forward. Joe Montana taught me that, right? How do we help these kids have these things? So I feel like the recreation space is the best place to do it, because yes, there's competition, but it's done in such a way that the kids are learning from their failures. They're not being pushed down and horrible. And like you said, sometimes a basketball team, and they've got a 6'2" kid that can barely tie their shoes and move, and a 5'5" kid, whatever it is, and they just put them together and they create a space for them to have a positive experience. And you know as well as I do, if you have a positive experience and you're having fun doing it, you're going to want to do it more, no matter how good you are at it. And you know what the other thing is that if you're having fun doing it, and you're watching others do it, you want to get a little better, and you want to get a little better, and you want to do the work. And isn't that what we want kids to learn, is that they do the work, that they get the reward?
Yeah. So define resiliency.
So resiliency to me, I got to tell a story. So my daughter, when she was 8, she played softball. And she actually, I didn't let her play till she was 8 because I was concerned that, softball is a slow sport. I want her to have fun. So she goes in there, she's 8 years old, and everything's great. And they put her at third base, right? She's the youngest in the league. Everybody else is 9. She's 8, but that's all right. So the ball gets hit, and it one hops and hits her right in the thigh, and it knocks her down. Bam, flat. And I looked at her, and my wife at the time got up to go get her, and I grabbed for her hoodie to stop her and just give her a second. Unfortunately, I grabbed a little too hard on the hoodie, and she slipped. But we'll save that one for another day. But here's what happened. My daughter, who got knocked on the ground, looked up at the coach who was walking out and put her hand up like this.
No way.
And just like, give me a minute. And she got herself up and she dusted herself off. She had tears in her eyes. And she fixed her little visor, and she went back and played right on that spot.
Wow.
And I know for a fact that had my wife gone out, had she gone out that time and helped my daughter up, she could have. Had the coach come up, right? But that's resiliency. My daughter got that. And you know what? My daughter she's a bad little one, and she learned it there. She learned it by that. That's one step of resiliency, knowing she can get herself back up. By the way, that night she had a mark this big with lines from the softball on her thigh.
Nice. I love it.
That was an indelible lesson that she got to learn.
Yeah. And, I don't know why sometimes we expect as parents or as coaches or as people in charge of early childhood formation to think that a skilled sailor can be formed outside of the storm. Like, it literally is the storms that you learn to sail. And without it, imagine trying to learn how to sail in still water, tied to the pier. That's not what these kids are made for. These kids are made tough, resilient, if you let them out into the world, right? If you let them experience adversity. And protecting your child from adversity seems like you're doing harm to them. It's, if anything, you want to find places for them to experience adversity.
Yeah, one of the things that's being kind of pushed out now is how to find safe ways for your child to get outside of their comfort zone, right? Because the only way we grow is by getting outside of our comfort zone. And to me, I know for a fact that these kids would fly if us parents didn't say they couldn't fly. When my son learned to walk, I didn't have to say, okay, Mason, you're 1, get up and walk. We got to practice walking. He wanted to walk. So what did he do? He got up and fell down and got up, fell down, and got up and fell down until he walked. And there were times where he bumped his head, and it was like, okay, that's all right, brush it off, let's go. And I think that we as parents have changed. And again, it's not as safe as it was back in the day, right? I don't know about you, but I'm the guy that came home when a street light came on, right? Yeah. What we did. We can't give that to our kids. But in the recreation space, we can create a safe environment, a hub where they can fail. They can fall down and allow them to get themselves back up. And man, that resiliency piece, Craig, I don't think there's any better or more important lesson for a child to learn that they can then take care of themselves. They say the worst thing we can do as parents is continue to do for our children what they can do for themselves.
Oh, I love that. I love that statement. We need to put that on a plaque somewhere. Let's talk about safety, because I know sometimes we think safety means there's no adversity, there's no danger, they're not going to get hurt, they're not going to scrape their knee. But that's not the kind of safety we're talking about. Like, let's define safety as when you say, let's create a safe space for our child to. What safety we're talking about?
Yeah. So safety starts. It does start with the coaches, right? Obviously, and if you're a parent listening or somebody, you really need to make sure that they've had background checks. What clearance training they've done. Make sure, like at the National Academy of Athletics, our coaches are certified. So they go through everything from not just background checks, but the mandated reporter, bully prevention, talk, teach, play training, classroom management. So they get the package so they know how to help kids to lift them up. But there's a lot of leagues out there. In fact, most end up with a parent volunteer, which is still a wonderful way to go. We just have to make sure that those parents are properly vetted and properly educated. And it's as simple as, do you have a skill and drill book that you can give them? Do you have a roadmap, a practice plan, whatever it is? But so that safety starts, to me, with the parents. It starts with whoever's coaching, making sure that we check in and those leagues are doing that. That's a big one for them. That's first part. The second piece of the puzzle I think is really important is going to be making sure that the field area is safe, right? In terms of how they set it up and what's going on there. I've seen some neighborhoods don't have the safest places to play. Again, I played down the street with my friends, car, and you had to stop when the car came through the road.
Right.
Right. So safe environment, and then equipment, making sure you got the right equipment and safe equipment going forward from there. But it really comes down to if you think about it, if you're in the right league or club or whatever it is you're going with the right mindset and the coaches are certified, cleared, trained, you have a fighting chance.
Yeah. Yeah. And so the safety that comes to mind that's obvious for me is that there's not a child predator coaching your kids. Okay. Or another obvious one is that a kid gets bullied, maybe punched. There's a little a fist fight in the middle.
Yeah.
And so you want an adult in charge that's just aware, that's got his eye on the kids.
Yeah.
But I almost look at it as we're trying to create a safe place for your child to get hurt.
Yeah.
For a safe place for them to scrape their knee, to get maybe popped by a little ball or something, but it's under the watchful eye of someone that knows how to handle all of these situations. It's not a safe place to where we have this Nerf environment where a child can't experience a little bit of pain, a little bit of discomfort, a little bit of failure, or if anything, maybe a lot of both.
Right.
But you're not having to worry about maybe somebody coming, being a child predator on your child or something like that.
One of my favorite coaches when I was a kid, I had a lot of them, Coach Islis and Racines and tons of them. But Coach Chavez was interesting. He would always, when somebody would go down, he would let them self-diagnose, even at a young age. And he'd say, are you injured or are you hurt?
I love that.
Yes. What's the difference? Right. And understanding that pain is part of the process, right? Just like failure is part of the process. But imagine if we empowered kids to check themselves to go, okay, difference between injured and hurt, right? An injury means we take you off and we need to address it. Hurt means shake it off, wipe the tears like my daughter did, and let's go,
Yeah.
I want that. I want that for the kids. I want that. Everybody keeps saying that this generation is this. Well, it's not the kids' fault. It's the parents that bubble wrap them. Right? Here's a scary stat. Think about this one. And this is where, again, if we do it right, we can pull it out, right? And this is why rec sports is so important. During the pandemic, a child from kindergarten to 8th grade went through school. They would lose, the national average about 3 years to catch up academically. Makes sense. They got to kind of re-engage. The scarier stat is they said it could take up to 8 years to catch up socially and emotionally.
Wow.
So we bubble wrap them, no matter politics, whatever the case is. But we took them out. We put a mask. They forget to say hello and thank you and Mr. Johnson down the street, respect, all of that. It was kind of wiped out. Let alone that this is how they communicate with each other instead of going up to somebody and saying hello, right? So youth sports, when you talk about taking a risk and resiliency, we can build them back. The funniest thing about it, what we're seeing is nationally that 8 years is being reduced back down to 3 years, which means we're there for the kids that are playing on a team sport. They're getting the chance, like you said, to fail, right? To fail through it, to learn. My mom used to always say to me when I was little, I always remember, she'd say, "What's the lesson, honey? What's the lesson?" To the point you want to just kick her in the shin, right? But that's the deal. What is the lesson? If these kids can learn the lesson and we can give them the freedom to learn the lesson through this, I think amazing is going to happen.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think as parents and as just as a human species, we know that there is infinite strength inside. We know it's there. We've all experienced it. We've all experienced something that we didn't feel like we could do, but in hindsight, after we went through it, we knew we came out stronger.
Right.
But it has to be discovered. So where do you discover your strength? Do you think you discover your strength when things are easy or when times are tough?
Right.
And maybe you can speak of how these sports allow us to experience that strength, that personally, real time.
The model in rec sports is so powerful and it is so needed. What they call now is sports sampling. Now, sports sampling means that your child goes out to a place instead of signing them up to play in a competitive league, and I'll give you an example, Craig. I'll make it quick. So your son or daughter, your daughter is going to go play soccer for the first time. So you think, well, I got to sign her up for the best opportunity. So you sign up for a competitive league. She's 8 years old. She's never really played before. She doesn't know the rules. She doesn't know the game. You've played a little bit in the front yard, but okay. She goes to play in a competitive league. They have 6 one-hour practices. No pressure because we're learning and we're going through it. And then she's got a game. Now, no, well, all of a sudden in a competitive environment, well, guess what happens? She's blown out of the water, doesn't know what's going on, doesn't even know what direction she's supposed to go. She doesn't know the difference between offense and defense. She doesn't understand the concepts. She's going to fail. But that's not the failure that I want to see for kids. See, if you sign her up for a recreational camp or clinic or recreational program, you know what happened in those 6 hours? It would all be fundamentals. And then when they started to play using my system, which is talk, teach, play, she'd have a chance to experience failure in the practices. And then a coach who says, okay, well, what did we learn from this? What's the lesson and how do we grow through it? And working together. So the difference between going straight to competition or being in a place where they can actually learn it through recreationally. And you know what? They make friends and they learn empathy, because if they're really good, they learn the leadership. Right. And if they're not really good at that sport, they learn empathy, they learn desire, they want to do these things. So there's so many lessons that they can learn from that. So for me, I tell everybody, in fact, what I do with my kids, my kids are grown now, but when they were little, every sport they played, I made sure that they went to a camp or clinic before that season began. Give them a fighting chance to have fundamental skills, confidence, learn if they're playing baseball, what direction to run, where's left field, where's right field, all those concepts which help them develop confidence. So we went out there to blend confidence with athleticism and the fundamentals, and it gave them a fighting chance to succeed.
Okay, let's talk. I know you're going to blow this one out the water, but let's talk about the team dynamics and what it's like for a person to be on a team in person in athletics, because these technical devices isolate you so much to where you're looking at your screen and you get to choose what you want to show the world. Yeah. And you're doing it alone in complete isolation. But when you step into the real world, onto a field with a team, the ability to filter what you want the world to see almost vaporizes. You are as good as a catcher as you can be. You can't fake it. You can't take your best catch ever and show the world only that. You get to show every pass, every kick, is on full display for everybody, and they're all in that situation. And maybe talk about how team dynamics opens up the kids' world to reality.
Yeah. I think team, to me, I saw it when I was young, and I watched it go all the way through. And there is a couple of things that, let's say it's a caveat. One is that you have to have the coach that creates the environment that is team-centric, right? Mm-hmm. Not individual player-centric, but team-centric, right? And if you're on a team that if you're in business and you're the CEO, right, whatever it is, they say you're only as good as your weakest link. The challenge is that we tend to glom towards the star, right? We always go, well, that kid is the athletic one, and maybe they grew up earlier, so they're the ones that takes the lead, and everybody else, it doesn't matter what they do because this kid is scoring all the goals, so we're winning the games. So for me, if the team environment is based on effort rather than just results, right? That's when kids get the chance to learn all those other factors that are going along. So if you have a team environment, whether it's a company like mine or whether it's a youth sports team, whatever, and the focus is on development, enjoyment, and effort, that's when they can really rock and roll. When I ran one of my first camps I ever ran was with a guy named Magic Johnson. I know you know that. And we put about 400 kids at Cal Lutheran down in Thousand Oaks, and Magic is there. We had some of the best guys around. We're ready, and these kids are about to come. And Magic says, all right, what's the goal for camp? And the coaches were like, we're going to give them fundamentals and we're going to give them discipline and this and that. And Magic goes, whoa, right? He said, we're going to win kids. The goal this week is to win kids. So that's the environment you're talking about with that magic smile, right? That's it. Win kids. How do team sports help to win kids? Well, you know what they do? They're allowed to fail without judgment by the coach. Instead, what's the lesson? What did we learn? and going forward from there. When kids feel like it's a bully environment, right? They want to shut down. Instead, I see what you're doing and I don't like it. Let's get together. We have a conversation. To your point, they have to talk to each other. They have to talk it out, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you can create that kind of environment for team, I feel like there's nothing better. If you listen to Coach Wooden or any of the people out there that really understand what team was about, it's everything from individual accountability, team accountability, goals, failing together, growing together, learning together, succeeding together.
Yeah. And there is a certain amount of pressure to be able to do good for the team where you may have just not for yourself. There's a lot of times where if we're in our head and it's just us, quitting is so much easier because it's just you. But when you're on a team and you hurt or you see somebody else hurt, you want to encourage them, you want to get back up for the team. And it's nearly impossible to replicate that in the solo environment.
It really is. And it's interesting what you just said. Wouldn't that be nice if we had that down the street? You know what I mean? Where I see people where something happens and people walk the other way. They want nothing to do with it. Right.
Right.
I'm leaning in and I'm helping that person up. And that's team. And I feel like whether you have philosophy, each one reach one or whatever it is, and you give these philosophies that help these kids learn, they learn a different level of leadership as well, leading from the top down, leading side to side, and leading the bottom up. And these are skills that take off when they go into the real world competition, right? When they get out there in the real world and they're competing for work, whatever they're doing, it's such a huge piece of this, to help them to learn. But again, the reality is very few kids get out there the first time and hit a home run and then never miss, a pitch that comes in. Very few, in fact, none, right? So by learning through failure, realizing that it's never fatal, another Coach Wooden quote, failure never becomes fatal till you blame someone else. So imagine in that team atmosphere, if you have the individual accountability, but not punishment-based, rather than, okay, what can we all learn from what just happened and how to elevate them up?
Yeah. And the greatest achievements of man are collaborative endeavors. That there are things that you can do as an individual, and we've seen individuals do remarkable things, but there are things that individuals are completely cut off because think about lifting a car. No single person could lift a car, but you put maybe 20 people around, it's not a big deal. And so if you want to be a part of great achievement, operating as a team that collaborates with all different walks of life and strengths, it's the only way to go. There is no other path outside of team efforts for a lot of great achievements.
The other one, Craig, that I think that people miss out on, I was just talking, I got a very special friend of mine and we were chatting about this the other day. When you have an experience, let's say you go to the movies and you watch a movie by yourself, you experience the movie once and you might think a little bit about it. But buddy, if you and I go to the movies and we experience that, we're going to be talking about that movie and we're going to learn from each other's experience through that. And years later, we're going to, hey, remember we watched that movie and this happened? And it makes a life of this thing that carries on so much further. I'm still friends with kids that I played Little League with, right?
I love that.
Right? I'm still friends with families that kids played on my son's soccer team, basketball team, my daughter's cheerleading. We're still connected. And that's the piece, the beauty. I don't think there is really anything. Pope Francis just passed away, and he was one that talked about the power of sports and how it connects communities, right? How it goes beyond, right? You could have two people that normally in different walks of life, one's wealthy, one's not, but they go in and they watch that ball game and they're cheering together side by side for that to happen. And that's sports at the highest level. But man, if we could bring that back to that kid level and give the kids the joy of that, I feel like that resiliency, that joy creates a lifetime of love of all of it. And it's just this big hug. I know I'm getting kind of out there, and it's what it is, man. It's where I live.
Yeah. No, I love it. And I think maybe we can say a little bit more about the power of connection, the power of almost like a family atmosphere where you're building lifelong connections with people that are overcoming their own inner adversity that can last, a lifetime. And it may start with these, like you said, these little grade school, little league teams, and these relationships can and do last entire lifetimes. And you really, as a parent, should want to facilitate these connections and trying to facilitate them outside of things like sports. I'm trying to think of what other environment does that so well, but certainly we have one right at our fingertips. And talking to all Parks and Rec people, I mean, this is the industry that this happens in.
You know, a big one I would say is to me is my philosophy that it takes a village. And if you really think about it, it takes a village to raise a child, right? It really does. And if you got a good village, you got a fighting chance. Now, where I grew up, and again, you know, back, I sound like an old guy back in the day, but it happened that way. If we made a mistake down the street, Mr. DeVilbiss would come out with his cane and whack us. Now I'm not advocating for that, but we knew, you know what, stay off his dang lawn, you know what I mean? Or don't act stupid or whatever it was, right? And then we would say, don't tell my mom, because we, you know, right nowadays would be a lawsuit. But it took the village that worked together to raise the child. Well, if you're out there and you're in recreation, you're creating a village, and you know that because you get the feel of that, right? If you're a rec professional and you see those 70, those 100, those 400 kids show up for your basketball program, whatever, there's a village that you're creating there. And if you do it right with the philosophies that we're talking about, which I know you do because you're a rec professional, it changes lives. And that village that's created is not just between the coach and the kid, but it's also the parents that are on the sideline. Again, same situation. One's got a blue collar job, one's got a white collar job, one does whatever, different walks of life, different history, some divorced, some still together, and they're all there for one purpose, which is for their child to fall in love with playing sports and learn about success and failure through this.
Yeah. And something not so often talked about, which I wish we would talk about it more. I think it's often been politicized, the difference between the masculine and the feminine. And not to say that the masculine is strictly for males and the feminine strictly for females, but you've got the masculine response to the scraped knee often is different than the feminine response. One's more of a nurturing, caring, let me help, let me embrace. Could be the typical feminine response. And the masculine response is you're tough, you're strong, get back in there, rub some dirt on it. You can overcome this. And often that is experienced in coaching, on the sports field. And I can say that some of the greatest influencers of my life were male coaches that were not my dad, but they acted in a father role to help me learn these lessons that I didn't pick up from any other place. This is where I learned these lessons. And I think that's crucial to have a balanced approach, to not just have, it seems like the classroom itself is a very female dominated, that women gravitate to teaching, that they get to choose what they want to do with their life. And often they choose teaching, and yet look at the amount of coaches that are men. And so it's a way for them to experience that masculine solution to all these lessons, which I think are vital for the those formative years.
I think it's important. I'll tell you what, I just had a wonderful conversation with a lady who's from Minnesota, who's focusing on getting more women coaches, right? To balance it, because it is important. In an ideal world, you got the nurturing, you got both. I do agree that there is something about, wipe yourself off and get back up, kind of an end of it. But I think the balance is very important.
Right.
I can just tell you for myself, my dad left when I was 3 years old. My mom drove me when I was 7 and said, I'm done with this. And I'm like, what do you mean? She drove me to the baseball field and said, there's your baseball coach. And then she locked the door and drove off. And that's how I got introduced to sports, right?
That's a female doing a masculine response right there.
He was like, I'm done with you. I'll be honest, I was a big crybaby when I was that little, but my first at bat, I wasn't very good, I struck out really bad. In fact, Coach Islis came over and I had thrown the bat and the helmet down and started crying. And he grabbed me by the back of the shirt after saying, unacceptable, which no one had ever talked to me about in my life. And by the way, that would be a lawsuit these days, right? But he grabbed me over, he didn't hurt me. And he says, pick up the bat, pick up the helmet, let's go. And he took me to the dugout and he said, the bat goes there, the helmet goes there, and your backside goes there. And you might use a different word back in the day. And he said, what's the big deal, man? And I was crying. I remember like it was yesterday. And he said, what's going on? And I'm like, I suck at baseball. I can't do this. He goes, it's your first time playing. Who's your favorite player? The name I knew was Willie Mays. Willie Mays, growing up in the Bay. He goes, Willie Mays, don't you realize Willie Mays gets out 7 out of 10 times? I didn't know that. Don't you know Willie Mays struck out half the time he got out? I didn't know that. So Aaron, at 7, your first time playing, how in the world do you think you're going to be better than Willie Mays? That conversation has stuck with me. And coach is 85 years old, and I still check in him all the time and get the chance to see him. So, yeah.
Yeah, and those are the valuable lessons that I think we're trying to orchestrate here. So, okay, so let's dive a little deeper into the National Academy of Athletics. Maybe just give us the history of it. How long has it been going around? What's its mission, vision, goals? What is it?
Yeah, so we're building healthy bodies and happy hearts using youth sports. I had University of Sports for 20 years. I exited in 2011, and I wasn't done yet, and I wanted to figure what it is. And my old company was based on a facility, and I wanted to be able to branch out and give more. And again, going back to honor what Coach Islis and Coach Racines and Chavez and all the coaches that had given to me, I wanted to give that back. So in 2012, I opened up the National Academy of Athletics. And our whole purpose is to partner with recreation departments, schools, rec districts, YMCA's, Boys and Girls Club leagues to help facilitate youth sports, in my opinion, the right way in a recreational space. So we started partnering with cities in schools to do everything from physical education, after school sports, recess and lunchtime, helping kids learn to play sports again, right? To re-engage. And, to be honest, it grew really quickly. And I had to kind of press the brakes a little bit and say, okay, we're serving a lot of communities here. We were in Northern California to start with, and serving a lot of communities and making sure to test the systems to make sure that we had all the training and using all the stuff that I learned from Coach Wooden to go out there. So our purpose, and now we're franchising nationwide, is to help every child, no matter where they live, no matter their financial status, to have a chance to play youth sports. Because like we've talked about here, youth sports, there's no better life skill teaching tool. And if we can help to facilitate that with a recreation department, man, you know what? It makes all the difference in those communities.
Yeah. And so you're not just so if a city's interested in bringing in your programs, then that's one way that they can work with you. But then also, if you're just a coach and you're looking to belong to a system where a lot of it's already thought through, all the branding's done, all the manuals are printed out, then you can get a franchise from you and then operate under that same umbrella. Can you maybe go into each of those? What's it like for a city or Park and Rec department to work with you? And then we'll go to the individual after that.
Okay. So in the Parks and Recreation space, easy for me to say, Parks and Rec directors, we work together to bring a youth sports camp or clinic or league or whatever they want to facilitate. So whether they reach out to us, and I've got stacks, this is funny, I've got this stack of business cards of rec departments that are reaching out to us saying, hey, can you come here? So that's one of the reasons why we're going to the franchise space, to be able to offer more. But the gist of it, it's a partnership. We don't do anything that's not in partnership. I believe, getting back to Craig, the village, we're creating the village. So the recreation department, the Nash Cab Athletics, works together towards a common goal of providing the best possible recreational youth sport program for these kids. And the way we do it is usually it's a percentage profit share. So the city will maintain, the rec district, our community partner, as we call them, will retain their portion. They provide the facility. They assist with the marketing. We can take registration. They can take registration, whatever. That's what they provide for us. And then we provide the staff, the curriculum, the equipment, the assistance with the marketing, the whole soup to nuts. So the idea is we put those two together and then we can roll out. We do 12 different team sports. Our focus is primarily team sports, everything from your traditional soccer, basketball, flag football, volleyball, but we also do pickleball for kids, which is a sector. We had futsal for those that want to run soccer indoors. So we mix it up. Our most popular program is actually the All Sorts of Sports, where they get to experience 2 or 3 different sports every day, and kids love that program. So that's
tell me more about that. I've never heard of this before. So what is this?
So the All Sorts of Sports, we'll run, like, let's say a week-long camp. It's either 9 to noon for the week or 9 to 3. And especially if your kid likes sports but doesn't know which one they love, or they're new to playing sports and just want to try it out, it's perfect. They come in and we divide them up based on age and ability, looking at their athleticism. We start with an RSBQ warm-up, which is rhythm, speed, balance, and quickness. And anybody knows sports or athletics, those are the 4 things you need. So we take those through. I learned those from Jerry Rice, by the way. So not a bad guy to learn that stuff from.
Now, what are those again? Run through those one more time.
Rhythm, speed, balance, and quickness. Those are the 4 things that help you to be an athlete. right? If you got rhythm, those dancers out there, whatever, right? You gotta have some fun with it. But so every program starts with that, right? And so the ability with that is then we will go out and they'll play wiffle ball, they'll play kickball, they'll play dodgeball, they'll play soccer, they'll play basketball. Depending on the location, they get a chance to do, like, I hate to say it, but old school, like we used to do, right? Sandlot. We go down, whatever ball we had, that's what we played, right?
Right.
Figure
Right.
games out. So we create an environment that is very structured using my talk, teach, play system, right? Breaks it out and puts it out there, but it's in a way where the whole focus is enjoyment number one, skill development number two, friendship number three. And then, by the way, they learn to compete because, yes, there'll be winners and losers for that particular game. And guess what they do? They go, okay, get up, let's play it again. And so it goes so quick. There's never a chance for the kids to get sulky, get stuck in the loss instead, or celebrate too high. It's like, okay, let's do it and move forward. And kids love those programs.
Yeah, I love that. Now, anything else to say as far as how a city gets involved with your site? I mean, obviously they go into your website.
Yeah.
What are some first steps that they would be looking to?
The best way is just to go to nationalacademyofathletics.com and they can see under our community partner page and how to get involved. But if they're looking to run a basketball league, we can help with that. If they're looking to run a soccer program, whatever, we can do coaching education. We can help them to provide a better, more quality program. What the commitment they have to do is to commit to contain the field space or the court space or the basketball gym so that we could facilitate those programs once they decided what they want to run. And, I talked to some cities and they're like, well, we don't want to outsource. We want to run everything in house. And Craig, man, if you got a great staff that wants to run it, go for it. But the reality is to maintain that great staff that has the training, it's tough. And what I tell everybody is with one contract, with one contact, you can run up to 12 different sports year round. From weekend classes to leagues to clubs to after school sports to camps with one. And that's why I think everybody loves what we're doing.
Yeah. And so what are the improvements that they'll see? And I imagine that cities should really give this at least a 3-year run before they, because a lot of times these first year programs, they're just not all that they expected. A lot of people expect a flourishing program after 1 year of it. Maybe give us a timeline. Yeah. What does the timeline look like?
And I love your mindset in the sense that it can take 3 seasons for it to catch, for them to understand. Usually word of mouth tells the story, right? So if we're going to run a little soccer program, a soccer camp, we may only get 16 kids to start. And other camps that are more elite or higher level might have 70 kids. I'm like, look at the success. Yeah, but we're getting those 16 kids that aren't either have the money to play in the elite or don't have the wherewithal, the confidence, the skills, whatever it is. So we're helping those 16. And when those 16 kids start out and then they're having so much fun and they're going back, and one of the things we do is we give them homework to explain to the parent one thing they learned, and then ask their parent to try it with them and develop this process, which is the social emotional part of this as well. And it does take. So I tell everybody, there's some, don't get me wrong, we've walked into some communities and they are ready for us, and we've got 150 kids a week and it's going nuts. And we love those too. But it's interesting watching the communities that are bringing recreational sports back to those communities, because it's easier for a rec department to just rent the field out and say, we're done. But that doesn't always service those kids that need it the most. So for the rec departments that reach out to us, we work with them. We look at it. It probably is a 3-season or 3-year go. I will say this: the more programs that we can be involved with in a year with a rec department, the quicker all of them grow. If you said, well, we want you to run a pickleball program for 1 week and then 2 weeks later run a basketball program, 2 weeks later something else, it's really hard for us to mature in that community. Right. But if you pick summers and you do 1 camp per week per summer, and then you're going to do classes in the fall and things like that, then the brand, National Academy of Athletics brand, and we can get better staff because it's more consistent, and working with the city, it works out much better.
Yeah. And I'd love to, and by the way, for those listening, we had talked earlier or late last week, and I've wanted to do something rec sports centered as the content we create, as more of a series, even if it's like a weekly thing or monthly thing or something. But I know this topic is so so much a part of our efforts. And I hate that some cities or smaller cities are just they're conducting youth sports without the level of wisdom and thought and experience that others have. And they're just doing the best they can with what they have. But to have somebody like Aaron that has literally dedicated his entire life to this and has such a background in coaching and experience and expertise, it's so great to start on day one with everything that you offer, and then really to just help maintain the facilities. And you've obviously you have a monopoly on the community. They live inside of your inside of your city. And I think let everybody do kind of what they're great at rather than trying to, start from zero. They can literally start on day one with all the wisdom you've gained from everything you've done.
Appreciate that. A big part of it is the philosophy. If we can re-engage those rec departments and help them to really flourish through recreation sports programs, I believe it's going to open up, and millions and millions and millions of kids are going to have better lives because of it. It is a little scary to me right now. There's been a major cash infusion in the youth sports space. People are looking at it as a big business. And I want to make sure I'm not trying to, fight big business, right? We're a business, for God's sake, right? But the reality is there's a way to do it the right way. You know what I'm saying? And to your point, I appreciate the kind words. When we come in and we work with the rec department in service of that community, again, in service, you're recreation people, you're parks people, in service. And so the bottom line is not always what it's about. If a rec department looks at the program, and there's 3 different ways that most rec departments will evaluate a program. Is this a subsidized program, right, where they need to fund it? Is this a cost recovery program where, okay, we can run everything and break even? Or is this a profit center? And if the recreation departments, the ones we work with, have clarity around those 3, then it makes it easier for us to figure out what's the best way to keep the sports the highest quality and affordable as possible. Because as well as I do, Craig, there is that point where sometimes things aren't that affordable for kids, and we want to re-engage those kids and give them the opportunity. Money should not be the factor as why a kid doesn't get a chance to participate in sports.
Yeah, and it really doesn't matter if you've got the best program on earth if nobody can afford it. And so it has to be a balance between the cities just getting ready to declare bankruptcy because they're giving everything away. And really, I think everybody knows that you have to have some skin in the game, even if it's just some fee. And then, of course, for those that need it, you can always have scholarships and stuff. But affordability is always, especially a lot of inner city programs want to have their programs remain affordable. So I love how y'all can kind of work with all types. Now, now you said you had 200 plus cities that y'all are working with, or what's the number?
Currently, we've actually, it's 324 and counting, 320 cities we're running. We will do probably 30,000 kids a summer, in sports camps, 36 different school districts that we're working with. And so, yeah, it's interesting as we open up new territories. We just opened up in Nevada. And so Reno and Sparks have embraced the programs, and now the schools are asking about us. And we're down in San Antonio, Texas, and up in Bloomfield Hills, Michigan, and Oakland County, and lots of different territories are growing. Obviously in California, the North and the South, and San Diego and Orange County and the Bay Area, and so things are growing. But it's growing exponentially because I think what's happened is youth sports is pretty recession proof in the sense that I know you've got some kids, right? And I don't know, but I'm going to buy my son or daughter new shoes, and I'll wear the old ones, right? We're going to do for our kids what we do. And if we know the value of sports and we want them to participate in sports, especially for the right reason, and then it's affordable and there's quality program through Parks and Rec, you know what? I'm going to continue to do that for my kids. And so I feel like it's so needed, and there's a right way to do it with the rec departments. The rec departments, if you're out there in the park and rec space, remember some city councilors are saying we need 30% no matter what. Well, if you're in a lower income area, try to see if you can lower that percentage that you get down, because then we can keep that tuition lower, which affords more kids the opportunity to play. And that's what we're all about, right? Our mission, Parks and Rec, is, encourage engagement.
Now, is this just for larger park systems, or does this work for smaller cities?
We've got some of the smallest out. I don't know if you all know Northern California, the Napa Valley, but we've got Yountville, population, I don't know, of 1,600, and we're
Mhm.
running programs there, or Calistoga, real small little communities. So obviously we can do the larger communities as well. I find that if the rec director has a heart for this, we can make it work no matter what the situation is.
Fantastic. Okay, so then let's talk about franchising. If there's some coach out there that really wants a little more structure, what do y'all offer to somebody that's just a coach that would like to, maybe have a franchise with y'all?
Well, first of all, I will say there's no such thing as just a coach, but thank you, right? You
Yeah.
know, man, coach is if you're out there, thank you for your service.
Thank you.
We need it. Thank you. We need that, right?
Yep.
Willing to give of your time. Most of them are not just non-paid or volunteer, but then even if you're paid, you're covering everything out of your pocket so much you're losing on the deal. But I would say this: if someone wants to blend an entrepreneurial spirit and a love for helping kids have better lives, and they also enjoy coaching, our system over the last 5 years, my team took the good stuff from here, the good stuff, and we built an intranet and a system. It's as close to business in the box as possible. So if you've never run a business before, that's okay. We can help. If you're like, well, in fact, I just had someone from San Jose reach out, and she's like, I've done this, but I really would love the opportunity. So she would go to our franchise page on nationalcabathletics.com and go to the franchise page, fill out and get the playbook. You can get the playbook. It's free. Just fill it out and you can have the playbook. It kind of explains the rest of the detail. But the gist of it is I've gone through this. I mean, 2 million kids have come through my program since I started in 1983, right?
Wow.
I feel more than most, Craig, but you know what has happened? We figured this out. And so now we've got people that are coming in and are being successful on many different levels. And what we talk about is if you can blend your purpose with profit and do it the right way, you're creating a sustainable business that is truly win-win-win, where you win, the community you serve wins, the kid wins. You know how the deal is. So for us, they come in, it's 6 weeks of training through the onboarding program and system. They get involved in all of it. The first thing we would do is see if the territory they're interested in is viable. We have a system that goes through and checks rooftops, checks economics, checks how many schools, how many students, how many, the whole deal, and learn and make sure. So if you want somewhere and it's not viable, we're going to let you know it's not viable, right? Our success is your success in service of the community.
So y'all not going to set somebody up for failure. If it doesn't look like that there's ability to succeed, you'll kind of say, hey, look, this isn't maybe a good fit for you. You kind of do a little market research before you launch somebody into a new territory.
And not just a little bit, but a lot of it. We have to, because this is not like I tell people, I'm going in partnership. Craig, you're going to get a territory. We're partners. You know what I mean? Franchise, but you're a partner. You're going to use our system. We're going to work with you. And to be honest, I feel like we have one of the best support teams because you have access to me, to my chief of staff, to the chief marketing, to everybody. So we're here to continually build that up. But if we look at a territory, in fact, we just had someone that wanted to open up a territory in one location, and they relocated part of their team, and now they're opening up a territory because they saw the value where it was. And that's their choice to do that. Right. But the opportunity was there. So this is not like I'm selling you a car and I'll see you every 6 months when you come get oil change. We're going to business together, and we want to make sure that everybody that does the National Academy Athletics brand keeps our brand, keeps the community driven focus, keeps the uplifting, the positivity, and all of those factors with the heart for kids, and then is successful as well.
Now, aside from being here on the Daily Parks and Rec Show, and we're talking about how we can maybe work together on getting the word out, what are you doing right now? Are you just attending state conferences, or what are you doing around just helping people learn about what you're doing?
I love that question. I'm one of those guys that's a continuous learner. At the airport, I buy a book, and I fly quite a bit, so I'll buy a book and I'll read through and find out and drive the bus that way. So part of my thirst is to be a continuous learner, watching your show and learning, doing lots of stuff, studying what's going on in the rec space. Studying what's going on in the competitive space. So I'll be involved with the National Parks and Recreation Association. By the way, all of you, if you're a Parks and Rec person, should be involved with them. You should be involved with your state Parks and Recreation as well. I've been going around speaking a lot on team building, on teamwork, on different types of leadership, transactional versus transformational leadership. So I do a lot of speaking, keynote speaking in that. Obviously, I have a heart and a passion for this stuff, so it's fun to get out there and do that. But I'm also studying a Project Play, see what's going on in terms of what is the state of kids playing sports and how can we impact that, coaching through NAES and figuring things out. So there's a lot of organizations out there that I'm really working hard to quench my thirst, to make sure that I'm staying ahead of the game, that we're playing offense instead of defense. In fact, I tell everybody in my company, I'm actually 9 months ahead of everybody on my team. So I'm working on next spring right now. You know what I'm saying? Because I want to see what the trends are coming, what's needed, and how to navigate the waters.
Yeah. I'm going to take a little break to advertise our Friday show. And then we're going to come back and finish off with Aaron. But our Friday show is for young professionals. And I think this is a perfect time to talk about our young professionals, because a lot of times the entry point is from sports and athletics and youth programming, stuff like that. So we have a show for y'all. We had our third show this last Friday, every Friday, same time as this, 12 noon. If you're a young professional, we have a space for you. Please reach out to me on LinkedIn. Come on to our show. If you're one of the professors that teaches at a college with your degree has to do with Parks and Recreation, come on to the show. We're also going to do an in-person event. But anyway, Chris and Kathleen have put together this little 1-minute promo for that show. So I'm going to run that, and then we'll come right back and finish off with Aaron.
The future of Parks and Recreation is here, and it starts with you. Welcome back to the Daily Parks and Recreation Show, where we bring you the latest insights, trends, and conversations shaping the world of parks and recreation. Today, we're diving into something that's shaping the future of our industry, Young Professional Networks, or YPN. If you love your job and love the parks and recreation community and are looking to connect with the next generation of leaders, this episode is for you. YPN is where driven, passionate professionals come together to connect, grow, and make a real impact. It's not just about networking, it's about building the future of our communities. Why join YPN? Career growth and mentorship. Learn from the best in the industry. Innovative ideas and collaboration. Be part of the next big movement. Leadership development. Take charge, make decisions, and create change. Whether you're just starting out or looking to take your career to the next level, YPN is your gateway to success. From exclusive networking opportunities to cutting-edge industry insights, this is where you build your legacy. Because the future of Parks and Recreation starts with you.
All right, Chris and Kathleen, I think I have your next video ready to idea. It needs to be on Rec Sports. We need to have a little promo, just like we did for the YPN, and of course our outro is going to be for facilities maintenance. But this is a topic within Parks and Recreation that I really want to dig deep on and have regular programming for on this show. So, all right, we only got a few minutes left with you, Aaron. What kind of message do you want to leave? And I say leave. We're going to have you back on the show 100% for sure. We'll just figure out where we can do that on a regular basis. But what kind of message?
I want to jump in on your young professional network.
Yeah.
That's awesome. You know what?
Yeah.
Good stuff. If I can ever give back and train and teach, I just spoke at Sac State to some people that are graduating from the Parks and Recreation Department. So if I can ever be of any service to that, count me in for sure. I love that because that's our future, man. Right? That's our future for sure. So
yeah.
You guys doing that. In terms of leaving us for now, I look forward to working with you. You know, you and I had a great chat before, and I want to continue this conversation. This is such a needed topic, and I do believe that youth sports is a really interesting thing, because I get parents that are saying that my kid either loves it or hates it, right? Mm-hmm. And I feel like what happens is, getting back to the analogy, if they hate broccoli, well, maybe because you didn't put butter on the broccoli, or you didn't put cheese on the broccoli. Right? Figure something out if you want them to eat broccoli. And we have to do the same thing here. We have to change the flavor, return recreational sports back to the Parks and Recreation. You guys are the rec pros. We can help with the National Cav Athletics. I'd love to do that. If you've been in the Parks and Rec space for a long time and you're like, you know what, I'm retiring out, and you want to have another adventure, come on, join our team. We can make that work as well. that being said, I really feel that Parks and Recreation, if you are a Parks and Recreation professional, understand this is somebody that lived in a lot of cities in my life, that the best cities have the best Parks and Recreation departments. And what
Yes.
you're doing matters. You're changing kids' lives, but you're doing more than that. Economically, you're helping the community. When a child is playing after school sports, when a child is playing on a Saturday class or program, you know what they're not doing? They're not being a knucklehead down the street. And so for me, let's keep playing offense. Let's keep training these kids the right way. Let's help them to learn success and failure in a way that they know to get themselves back up, developing resiliency, instead of feeling like they lost at one and then all of a sudden they're going to go do something stupid, whether they go try to harm other people. I know for a fact that we are making a difference. I love what you're doing, Craig, and I hope that we get a chance to be a bigger part of this because this is awesome.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I always learned that an idle mind and idle hands are devil's workshop. So, having good programs to put your kids in athletics is one I will recommend till the end of time. So appreciate you coming on. Let's go ahead and schedule another one of these. I'll call you later this evening to figure out what we're going to do to keep this topic going. I think we need to dig deep on this one, and this has got to be, if we're going to serve the Parks and Rec community, this is definitely one of the pieces of the puzzle that we're going to have for sure. So appreciate you coming on today, Aaron.
Absolutely appreciate it. Hopefully people find me on personally under my name, Facebook, LinkedIn, whatever. Let's connect. And if I can be of any service to anybody out there as a rec professional, as well as obviously with what we got going on here, count me in. I'm excited for this adventure.
Fantastic. Great having you on today.
Good stuff.
Yep.
Thank you.
Yeah. Take care. All right. That was Aaron Locks. What a great thing he's got going on with the National Academy of Athletics. Please look into him he's on LinkedIn. He's got a great website I checked out. He's also got some good franchising opportunities, or if you're just a small city that wants his level of expertise, I can't imagine anybody would want to operate a program without him advising you. And it's like anything else, you really do need to get a good coach in life, in business, in sports. Man, if you go up against somebody that's got a great coach, that's on a great team, good luck beating them if you're trying to solo life. And you should really look for those kind of opportunities for your children as well. Those formative years are super important. And I know that, I wouldn't be where I am today. And if it weren't for a shout out to Coach Pete Boudreau, one of the greatest coaches in America, one of the greatest high school coaches in America, actually won that award. One coach in high school wins greatest coach of America every year. It's elite group of men. And he happened to be my coach. I think he won more high school championships in track and field and cross country in the state of Louisiana. And one of the great men that formed me. So shout out to him. He's still kicking too. We just named our stadium at him at Catholic High School. So shout out to all the coaches out there, everybody out there that's running youth sports. Y'all are you're doing some of the most noble work out there. And I'm so glad to have somebody like Aaron on the show. And I hope that we're able to work together in a more meaningful way to have some regular programming around this topic. Okay, so man, we've got an exciting week lined up. This daily Parks and Rec show is becoming more than just a passion project for me. It's we've got a lot of man hours being slung at this. Thank you to everyone that's working full time on this. There's 5 of us working full time, 40, 50 hours a week, putting on this programming, really trying to launch what is going to be, I'm calling it right here, this is going to be the network, the media network for all things Parks and Recreation. And I can tell just by the speed at which it is growing, it is taking off. We're getting a lot of great feedback from you guys. All right. So we had a great idea over the weekend for the young professionals. We are trying to put together an annual meeting in person. We actually had somebody suggest, what if we make it like a big camp out? Because we're always trying to lower the cost for, to travel. A lot of times these state and national conventions, we just can't afford it. So we're like, okay, if money's the problem, maybe we can do an event that's just easier on the pocketbook. So we're trying to put together something that's very affordable for a young professional to attend. Maybe the only thing that it would cost him is a plane ticket, and then everything else will be pretty much covered. I've got a great stack of vendors that want to help put something like this on. And so we'll be kind of we're going to, in the background, I promise you, we are working on something special for you guys, and I can't wait to watch this develop. We also had an unbelievable show this morning with Garrett on urban forestry. And I was expecting the clock on the timer to be, maybe we're 15 minutes into this conversation. It was like 49 minutes, and I hadn't even covered everything. So we do have 4 shows scheduled every week, Monday through Friday, just on facilities maintenance. Urban forestry was a big topic that seemed to be very popular. But we've got field maintenance, aquatics, facilities. I mean, when it comes to maintaining this massive portfolio of real estate, it is daunting what it takes to maintain everything that's under the umbrella of Parks and Recreation. So really excited about that show. Going to be a morning show, 10:45, Monday through Thursday, for an hour. Immediately following, we're going to have guys like Aaron Locks on here, along with other leaders in Parks and Recreation. And then Fridays, we have our Young Professionals Network again this Friday. So looking forward to that again. Okay, so a lot of exciting stuff this week. Please stay tuned. Like our page on LinkedIn. It's where we do most of our stuff. We have quite a following on Facebook, a growing following on YouTube. All of this is uploaded to YouTube, and we try to categorize it so that you can go into a library. And of course, now we've got to create, Kathleen, please create another library just for rec sports, because this is going to be a topic we create more and more again. Also create one for urban forestry. So you'll be able to go onto our YouTube page, and we're just going to start stacking great content on urban forestry, great content on young professionals, great content on directors and their story and their careers, highlighting their wisdom. We're going to have another one for rec sports. I love it. Great job today, Aaron. Well, I will see y'all tomorrow, 10:45 for our maintenance show, followed by our 12 noon Eastern leadership series. Loving this week so far. This is going to be a great week. All right, guys, signing off. See y'all tomorrow. Bye.
Welcome to the Daily Parks and Rec Show, where we highlight the essential work that keeps our parks and facilities thriving. From local ball fields to multi-use athletic complexes, field maintenance ensures every space is safe, ready, and welcoming for play and community events. Facility maintenance is the backbone of operational excellence, ensuring that recreation centers, playgrounds, and shared spaces are functional, clean, and built to last. Behind the scenes, equipment maintenance keeps vital tools and machinery in peak condition. At the core of future-forward thinking is sustainability management, integrating green practices that reduce environmental impact and enhance long-term resource stewardship. Facilities maintenance is more than routine upkeep. It's strategic, essential, and foundational to building healthy and resilient communities. This is the Daily Parks and Rec Show, honoring the professionals who keep our spaces running and our communities strong.